everyone says that consistency is the most important thing. And while I think it's true, there is a reason why most people are unable to be consistent. And I think that all of the content, all of the videos, all of the books talking about the fact that you need to be consistent, that you need to have discipline, all of those things, I think they're all overlooking the actual reason why most people are unable to stay consistent. And I always used to believe that the issue was motivation, discipline, laziness, just me not being good enough. And so I always tried to solve the problem that way, and I never succeeded. And I've recently had an experience where I started to lose steam. I started to kind of run low on motivation, low on energy. I was starting to just feel a bit stressed, a little bit spread thin. I was, basically losing my steam a little bit. And I was starting to get worried because I thought, okay, am I again like falling into a rut? Am I losing my momentum? Am I going to go back to kind of the person that I was before, that kept burning out, that kept falling into ruts? And I remembered something that I often did right before I came out of a rut, because I've been having the same pattern for the last like 5, 6 years, where I would do really well for a while and then I would fall into a rut, spend like a week or two just like trying to get by, barely doing any work or barely being able to do much work, getting really frustrated and angry at myself, and then using like social media, scrolling Instagram reels, watching YouTube videos, just trying to distract myself from the fact that I'm feeling burned out. And then thinking, okay, maybe I just need to take a weekend and just watch Game of Thrones the entire weekend and just eat bullshit food and basically just allow myself to relax. But this never really helped. And then I remembered that whenever I did that, right before I got back on track, I would usually be so frustrated that at some evening I would spend half of the night just journaling, just writing down stuff, just basically clearing my head, and then usually I would get back on track. And I used to believe that this was an motivation issue and discipline issue, or figuring out like, okay, what is the solution? But I've recently started to run out of steam, and I've then remembered what I used to do that worked, and so I just tried to replicate that. And so what I did is I did two main things. The first thing I did, and the first kind of part of the solution, is to get rid of mental clutter. And I think that's probably one of the main reasons why people start to burn out and fall into ruts. When you are always working on your goals, when you have a lot of stuff going on, when you're doing a lot, you start to accumulate just mental clutter. And that's both stuff that you're just kind of memorizing, holding in your mind, like I need to do this and this, even if you're using to-do lists and whatever, even if you're like project managing the stuff you're working on, there is still a lot of stuff that we tend to not write down. Stuff we need to remember, little details. In my work specifically, we're building systems for companies, like operational systems. And so there are many, many small little details, important things to remember, like details of a specific thing we're building, of a feature, of a whatever. And there are many things that I tend to not write down, because as I'm implementing it, I'm just holding it in my head. But then if I have like 3 different projects I'm working on the same day, in the same week, then there's just a lot of stuff in my head. And so I've noticed that when I don't clear out that mental clutter, I just get brain fog. My head just doesn't work properly. And so what I started doing is allowing myself some time every single day to just sit there. And I usually do this in the evening when it's about sunset time, and I would just sit next to the pool and just sit there with either like a paper notebook or my phone, put it in grayscale, put it in do not disturb, and just write down all the stuff that's on my mind. And the key there is to write down everything. Every thought, every idea, every fear, every worry, every to-do, everything you might want to do later, every single detail, everything you remember, every frustration, every whatever. Just writing basically everything that comes up, just writing it down. And the goal is not to put it into a structured form so you can use it. The goal is not to immediately like action on it or do whatever. The goal is just to basically clear out your head, just bring it all out, cleanse your mind. And whenever I do this in a phase where I feel a little bit stretched out and just burnt out and like I'm falling into a rut, I noticed that once I start doing it, I start writing down a lot of stuff. And this just shows to me that there are many things in my head that I'm not aware of if I'm just in day-to-day life. I'm just not aware that I have so many open loops. And this is a key part. If you have open loops that you're holding in your head, it has such a big cost on your attention, onto your mental capacity, and especially if it's stuff related to important work that you have to do. If you are building something, if you are working on a project, if you are trying to get something done, and there are very important things that you need to remember, very important things maybe you have committed to. So you said you will do something and you didn't write it down. Those are all open loops in your head that are just in the background and you're not fully aware of them, but they all weigh you down. They all clutter your mind. And so this is, I think, so underrated, and this has a massive impact on your mind. And this is, I think, why we get so much brain fog, because if you clear all of this out, then you are left with a clearer mind. You can then go through the doc, you can like look at what is actionable, what kind of things do I need to do, you create some to-dos, what are things I want to maybe write down, like basically store somewhere for later, what is just junk you just try to get out of your head. Even just writing about stuff that is pissing you off, stuff that is annoying you, stuff that is that you're worrying about, just getting everything out. Even stuff you're craving, maybe you're craving something, just write it down. Right? If you get it out of your head, it has much less of an effect on you. And so this is kind of the mental component, and this has a huge impact. And if you then combine that with active recovery, so what I've noticed, I do have a Whoop, and so I've noticed that my stress level during the day was very, very high. It was between medium and high pretty much all day. And I didn't really feel stressed, like I didn't really feel like super anxious or super jittery, but I just noticed that I was not fully recovered and I was struggling. On a weekend I would not do any work, I would force myself to take a break, but then on Monday like I'm as unrecovered as I was before. And so I think the main reason for that is that you can get into this state of being too much in your sympathetic nervous system, being too activated. And if you're not balancing this with parasympathetic nervous system activation, which is basically the rest and digest part of your nervous system, so you have basically the sympathetic, which is about like taking action, about being like engaged, being energized, being very active and activated. And then the parasympathetic is about relaxation, about rest, about recovery, recharging, and so on. And so what I did is I took some exercises, some things I could do to actively bring myself more into this parasympathetic state. And so what I did is in the evening I would do my journaling. I would sit there, try to have no stimulation, no extra input, watch the sunset, then do some breathing. I would do some sauna and some ice bath because those are also very, very good for recovery. They bring your nervous system down. And I would, in the sauna and in the ice bath, do breathing, just exhale, focus breathing. Very, very simple. You just focus on breathing out longer than you breathe in. And this just helps you bring your nervous system down. And this combined with, I also did some stretching. And this combined with the mental aspect of clearing your head has had a very profound effect. After really being kind of like a mini burnout, not a mini burnout, maybe that's too far, but I was really running out of steam. I was really on an empty tank. And it literally just took one afternoon, like one 90-minute block of journaling, having some time for myself, watching the sunset, not doing anything, not forcing myself to do anything, and focusing on my nervous system, just down regulating it and getting good sleep. And the next day I felt already so much better, so much more energized. And I've now been trying to do that every single day, just for a bit, just doing a little bit of stretching, some journaling, some sauna and ice bath, not every day, but trying to do it more. And this just helps you actively recover, because when you don't actively recover, you don't really recover that well, because maybe you say, I will take it easy this weekend, and you are just watching some YouTube, you're scrolling Instagram, you're just basically not forcing yourself to do anything, but it doesn't recover you. And in fact, you're only overloading your mind more, because you get reels, you get YouTube videos, whatever you're consuming. And most people spend a lot of time consuming on the days where they're trying to rest. You just add more clutter to your mind. Every single thing you see that is somewhat related to anything you're working on, any of your goals, will activate it. It will spark new ideas, new thoughts, new to-dos, new shoulds. I should do this. You see a reel related to the business you're building, and you get new ideas. You think you're behind, you need to do more, and it just creates so much stuff in your head. And so this time where you would think that you're recovering and that you're relaxing because you're not trying to be productive is actually just contributing to your mental state of not being focused and energized and mentally clear. And so I wanted to make this video because for me it has been a very big insight, and it has been a pattern where it has happened at least 10 times, probably 15 or 20 times in the last few years, where I just, after a while of doing really well, I just fall into a rut, lose my energy, lose my motivation, lose my my drive to keep going, and then it takes a week or 2 weeks until I then am able to kind of get back out of it. And the goal should be ideally to have a routine where you never burn out, you never fall into a rut, you never really need a big step away. I think that is the optimal state, where you can have enough recovery built into your routine, and maybe not every day, but at least once a week, at least maybe twice a week, where you have some active recovery, some journaling, some brain dumping, some actions that help you and help your body and your mind and your nervous system calm down and recharge and truly recharge. So then you are more energized and the work will feel more effortless again. And so I want to invite you to try this. The journaling part, super powerful. Just brain dump all the shit that's on your mind. Just get it all out of you. And spend some time away from all stimulation, ideally outside. Maybe go for a walk, maybe watch the sunset, and sauna, ice bath, very good. Some breath work, also very powerful, and stretching is also good. So there are a bunch of things you can do, and there are also other things. Massages are good. There are many different types of active recovery, but I think that's a key thing to understand, that recovery is not passive. I used to think that, and I noticed that it is not the case. I would have a weekend where I'm not doing anything, and then by Monday I am exactly as exhausted as I was before. And that just sucks, because it just sucks, right? It just is annoying if you can't recover. And for me, the most frustrating part was that for the longest time, I didn't know what the missing piece was. I didn't know why I wasn't recovering. I thought, okay, maybe the solution is to just not have to think about work. Maybe just force myself to not check anything related to work, just be fully away from all of that. And then on Monday I would start and I'm like, I have no energy. My mind is completely like foggy. I have no drive. I'm just feeling like shit. Like why? I just had a weekend where it didn't work. Like, what is the problem? But then there are phases where when you do the right things, when you actively recover as part of your routine, then you can just keep going indefinitely. And I think that's the goal. The goal is to be in a state where you can do the things you want to do every day, forever. And of course, you will have breaks. You might do vacations. You might do the Tim Ferriss mini retirements. There are many different ways of how we can organize our life, but I do think it makes sense to organize our day and our week in a way where we actively recover, so we don't build up this debt of having to then take a long time to bring ourselves back. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you tomorrow.